but they still use the wind to push them forward. It's very strange, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why in the age of where they start to build like the first generation of huge battleships, there was this fleet race between Great Britain and Germany at that time. It started at that time, and at the same time, when it came to transport shipping, they still had sailboats, and they built this huge, like this is the largest sailing boat used for transport with the most mass. As I said, there's a famous song in Hamburg where they, which is like, the harbor song, and there they sing, once I've seen a sailing ship with 4 masts from Hamburg. That's how the song starts. Badly translated now into English, but it's a very traditional song here in Hamburg, and that ship only has got 4 masts. And now we've got here one with 7 masts. And that in the age of coal steam engines. So what is your answer? Why did they do this? Or what do you think about it? Well, you already said it's crazy. So
yeah, actually, it's there's 2 main reasons. One, people still used to use the traditional way to think, to thought, and to make things. And the second reason is at that time, these coal steam engines are not so good, which can 100% be trusted. So you have two choice on the board. Seems not bad.
yeah,
I believe that's the main reason. Because if you go outside of the if you leave the motherland of Europe, nobody can help you, and at least
yeah. So you mean
this can be some kind of insurance.
It's a good. You're hitting a funny point of my family history, because my grandfather ship sank in the South Chinese Sea.
Already.
At that time, but they survived, or they were saved. But of course, sailing ships in that sense, it's a good point. Actually, for security reasons, of course, if you are on a large ocean, in particular, more like from the perspective of China, the Pacific is even larger, or if you're in the south of the Indian Ocean, and you get lost, then you are you're very and your engine or it's not working anymore. At least you have got your sails. Of course, the other way around is also true. Is a steamboat.
Yeah, it's plan B for your.
They don't have to care about the wind. I know films where a Hollywood classic, but that's from the 18th century, where they, maybe you've also once seen such a film where they have the other problem. They don't have wind at all, and for a sailing boat, that's very dangerous, of course. There's no wind coming. Yeah, and they're running out of water and such things. But there's one thing. There's also, if you would be the owner of a shipyard building such sailing boats, and now you're coming into the era of steamboats, and some of your competitors have already built steamboats. So what do you think? It's easy to switch to the other technology?
It's a hard decision. I do believe it's a hard decision because, as you said, why Nokia failed today? Because they focus on say for example, Saipan system, iPhone have iOS, Android, Google have Android. They cannot give up their own systems.
Yeah.
So that's a big reason why they feel that system doesn't work very good today.
Yeah. Yeah. And here we have an old system, as you can see, the old paradigm of sailing boats. Yeah, we had it for, you know, with sailing boats, the Vikings, and later on Columbus has, from the European perspective, has found America, and you know, we had this for a very long time, and now the steaming boats come in, and we can switch here, and this is of course a big paradigm shift. Yeah, and you can see here the steamships, sailing ships, the motor ships, and here you see what is happening. Yeah, this is the era where sailing ships, you know, there was you probably don't know. That's European history, but you know, there was this big battle of Trafalgar. Hang on, so just to give you an impression, I hope I've got a good book of. You don't see anything. Yeah, sadly no pictures on it. Can you see it? That's the old. That's the Napoleon. Maybe you've heard. Sorry. Hang on.
Of course, we know that. We know that.
Yeah, Napoleon. Maybe you've heard of him. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I can't expect you to know everything about European history. Maybe Napoleon you've heard, but you know, if you might see like Germans don't know so much about Chinese history. Of course, they know Genghis Khan, and but they don't know so many of the Kaiser, you know, the Chinese Kaiser time. Then about the 20th century, probably, we were taught a lot in school, actually, what happened in China in the 20th century, but not so much. So we also, for instance, had Mao or Deng Xiaoping. We had in our school class. Yeah, and but you know, the old times not so much. But coming back, you know, Trafalgar. So that was in the 18th century. You know, that was the age of Napoleon. Here we are. Of course, sailing ships were where they had like a really huge battle, the Spanish French against the British fleet. That's how actually Britain was endangered to be conquered, and that's. If you happen to be to London, there's the Trafalgar Square where you have Lord Nelson, the leader of that battle, who died in that battle actually. That's a very, very famous place in London, Trafalgar Square, with Lord Nelson. And actually, I still see his ship, and I think it's in Plymouth in England, but let's go so far. But you know, that was still the complete era. That's what I wanted to say, is the complete era of sailing ships. Yeah, and at that time, you know, at the European Napoleonic Wars, that was of course what they used, the sailing ships. And now we have, and you might think of America, typical like Mississippi, the steamships. Yeah, Mississippi, the large river in the middle of the United States, the famous steamships. Actually, the Mississippi region is very famous for the steamships. You might have seen some. Yeah, these.
We already learned this history in our high school history class.
Yeah. I just want to hint that because I'm just mentioning.
You reminded me. You reminded my high school time. I really missed that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm pointing at this because now something comes. At that time, because why I'm mentioning Mississippi now is, you know, the dominant mode was sailing ships, and now something starts. And you know, American Civil War time also, they had steamships, and these steamboats in the beginning, and that's very interesting. They were not really able to go to travel on the ocean. That's how the first steamships. That's why they were traveling on lakes and on the river. That's the Mississippi steamships. That's why they are so famous. That's why just mentioning them. And so what is happening is, and that is something at that time, everybody, and that's a typical thing when we look at disruptive innovation, a typical thing everybody was seeing, and also the sailing boat companies, the big shipyards, they were thinking, these steamships. Okay, nice idea, but first of all, why should anybody do that? You know, we have wind. Wind doesn't cost us anything. Coal costs us. We have to buy coal to use that ship. That doesn't make sense at all. Yeah, it's more expensive. Yeah, and then the other one is, and then it cannot even operate on oceans. You cannot use it for trade. Yeah, between countries, we cannot do ocean traveling with these steamships. You know, at that era. So a lot of people completely underestimated that technology. Yeah, and that is what we often see, is that this is in the beginning disruptive technologies. It changed the shift in technology, the paradigm, yeah, from these old ages. Even there we can see it, and this is why this example is in here, because it's so classic. Because that's what also can be seen in high tech. In the beginning, the disruptive innovation looks bad. Yeah, you think, well, you know, they had problems, you know, when a wave came and salt water got into the machine, then often it went off. Yeah, was turned off, so they could not use it anymore in the beginning. So at that time, everybody still believed, hey, this is not really here. Here we are. This is not an important technology. Only for lakes and rivers it's good. And nobody, yeah, maybe, and in that sense they thought, well, yeah, special technology for river transportation. Of course, sooner or later develop, and we all know what has happened from hindsight. Yeah, and we see how more and more how they conquered the market and how sailing ships were just going down. And this is the thing of now coming back to our ship. We are here, and they were still building, and this was already where the first motor ships started. So the modern ships started to be built. As you can see here, yeah, we have here the numbers, the share of them within the market. And even though, yeah, we have two new technology paradigm shifts here in technology, in sailing ship transportation technology. We have two changes. Yeah, somebody still has got the idea to build such a ship. Yeah, and we will now look why they actually did that. And you know, you have to see, for them it was the end of the, you know, they were really good in producing such ships, yeah, and changing from one paradigm to another is very difficult, and often you don't understand what the customers are about, what the new customers really are looking for. You know, a lot of things change. And this is what we have when also the system changes, yeah, which is like a technological system is changing, the paradigm is changing, and but for many companies, for big companies who were really successful, even here maybe they were still, you know, the end of the 19th century, they were still very successful and still having 50% of the market share. It was sure that it was be situated by steamships, steamboats, and by motor ships then. Yeah. Yeah, and we've now you've already given some answers, and one is, of course, you must imagine, yeah, the switching costs are tremendously high to switch to a technology, and you don't do it in the very beginning because you think like, yeah, it's just for rivers. So there's also this underestimation aspect in it. Question C. So, you know, they were really good in building sailing boats and even expanding that technology, you know, from 4 masts to 7 masts. Yeah, that was really like the end of the development in sailing boats. If you look at like the ones Nelson had, they often had just 2 or 3 masts at that time. And they were good at that. So they, of course, continued to build that ship. But what do you think happened to the shipyard which had built that ship in the years afterwards? What do you think? Any idea?
Sorry, I just go for a cup of water.
Yeah. Question C. What do you think happened to the shipyard which had built the sailing boat? Do you think it was doing very well, or what do you think? You know, here you have how the market developed, the market shares of technologies in the ship engine market.
Well, I believe that these companies still made such a boat because that's what the market and that's what the customer want. So it's not bad.
You mean this company?
Yeah.
And you think that's what the market? Yeah, but look at how the market developed later on in the 20th century. What has happened? Look at sailing ships. Their market share from Napoleon's times at 100%, and then going down. Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody was building any sailing ships anymore.
It seems the end line is the Second World War.
Yeah, seems to be a bit like that. Yeah. Yeah, they were still used, and many before that, many sailors and captains were still trained on such ships. Actually, there was one part of their education, of captains' education, was on sailing ships. Yeah, but yeah, this company, of course, yeah, it's in the end did not survive. Yeah, because it goes, you know, when the market share went southwards, as one says.
It seems a middle product, a swift product, not a final a successful product.
Yeah, but as you see, you know, they did taken from a technological point of view. Just looking at sailing ships, that was probably the most advanced sailing boat ever seen. Yeah, I mean, and probably one of the quickest you've ever seen. 7 masts. which is quite it looks a bit ridiculous actually to see it. But at that time, it is amazing that somebody, still pushing that technology path further and further, and not realizing that other technologies are kicking you out of the market. And this is what often is happening. Yeah, this is how companies generally, even they are, and you see, this shipyard was definitely innovative. Yeah, but they still, as you can see, with the 7 masts, yeah, which is an exception. As I said, the song in Hamburg is like 4 masts, 3 masts sailing boats were the usual types. So they were innovative, but of course only within their technological path. But that technological path was already doomed. It was, sooner or later. Oh yeah, that's in the end of the 40s or middle of the 40s, it was nobody was producing that ships anymore. Yeah, now they're a rarity. You can see them at harbor festivals, of course, a lot. But to be fair to sailing boats, we have this. They survived in a different place. When it comes to leisure time, small sailing boats, we still have small sailing yachts. That in that business they survive. Okay. Yeah, and this is exactly what we have. Why leading firms sometimes fail? That was our initial question about disruptive. Oh, hang on. I see some chat. Yeah, this is of course also a good point. As I see here in the chat, the question of Mrs. Shen. Yes, of course, you have still the chance to switch also. Yeah, you can of course, if you are in such a situation, you can switch to the new technology. You can adapt. Hang on, that's another. Okay, you meant it differently. Yeah. I understand your point, and that has to also, some of you have mentioned it now. It is, of course, a good point now from an ecological point of view. Yes, of course, sailing ships don't produce any pollution. Yeah, so it's a very environmentally friendly technology, to say that, and it saves energy, of course. That's true, and actually there were also ideas today that steaming motor ships now have also add sails on it. Yes, that's that. Of course, this possibility also exists, but it was at that time that people realized, you could get coal out of the ground so easily. It was the industrialization. The 19th century was very much influenced by the industrialization. So people realized that this was much safer technology to travel via the ocean than with sailing boats. As also we've seen. Don't forget, this boat actually, as you see, it was not very long in service, as you can see here. Hang on, I'll just show you the picture. From 1902 to 1907. Yeah, so this actually sank, this boat, and so the new technology was much more reliable. And if you think of that new transportation via the oceans, if you now look at the big container ships, then that was the reason why sailing ships did not, or only had a chance or ended up in a niche of the market. yeah, for leisure time, but not for transportation anymore. They were not used in transportation goods, in logistics. So what is happening? You know, steamships are invented, motor ships are invented, new software systems are invented, and this is what is typical to disruptive innovation. It's a complete game changer. Yeah, it changes the whole way. You know, and in particular, if you go from wind to coal, oil as the energy, this of course is a completely different way of using a boat. Yeah, and this is changing it a lot. You need to have coal. You need to have coal on every harbor in the beginning. Nowadays, you need to have fuel for your boats. You know, it's the same like with cars. Yeah, of course they have a different fuel, but it's the same. You need, you know, this all has to be developed. Yeah, and this of course takes its time. It's not that it comes so quickly, but then these boats sooner or later, you know, in the beginning they were laughing about them. They were saying, ha ha ha, they are just made for rivers and they cannot be used at the ocean. But then they finally made the step and had so safe engines that they made the step from rivers into the oceans. And once they had done that, yeah, the market share was declining for sailing ships, and the other one was just going up and then beating them out of the market. Yeah, and this is what we see. It's a very different value proposition they are offering into the market. Yeah, as I said, which becomes the dominant one later on. And here, like, yeah, first compared to the old, the market was dominated, of course, by sailing ships at that time. And this value proposition is different. It's, yeah, now it even costs money to transport goods. But because they are so much quicker, so much more reliable, you know, they offer different value. Yeah, quicker and more reliable, and bigger. That's also next aspect. If you now look at container ships of now, you know, these are really small. They look like sailing ships. These ships, even the first steamships, are small to our container ship giants, which travel from Hamburg to Shanghai or wherever, or Hong Kong. Yeah. And there are aspects, of course, all in a sudden, yeah, you also get new customers who are valuing that. Yeah, this is also something maybe in the beginning it's yeah, for transportation at rivers, which is one feature where this technology was used, and then also appreciated by the customers for transporting at rivers, because, you know, at rivers it's even more difficult without well, the wind has to come from the right side. You know, at oceans you can still make much bigger moves and use the wind, even though it doesn't come like from behind. You can still use the wind, but at rivers it gets more and more complicated, of course. And there you could already see the advantage. And this is what you have also, what we have here. I have to invite you in a few seconds again. I think we will be kicked out in a few seconds.